Hi, everyone, and welcome to a sort of Christmassy edition of Come to the Dyslexic Table, hosted by the whole Dyslexic Society. And today, because it's Christmas coming up, we're looking at the subject of board games and how our favorites might affect our function as dyslexics and what we love about them, and seeing if it helps anybody with their giving this Christmas. Sharon Roberts has written the most amazing article, and she's listed, gosh, I don't know how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, almost 20 games that she's had a look at. And we're hoping that you might have brought some of your favorites to this podcast as well. So, Sharon, would you like to kick off? Because we had a wonderful question already from Laura about how do board games affect our brain development. I Googled, and do you know what came up? It was all about video games. There was nothing about board games. So we're not going to touch video games this evening. Let's see what board games do for us.
Some of these games were Julie's, so I can't speak on behalf of those. But anyway, so according to what I found, to answer Laura's question, the hippocampus is stimulated while playing board games, and when it's strengthened, it can lead to better memory and spatial navigation. And other areas of the brain that can be affected by playing board games are the nucleus accumbens, and this is responsible for processing stimuli in relation to good or bad experiences. And board games at play often leads to a decrease in gray matter in the amygdala, which in turn reduces stress and encourages overall feelings of calmness. So that's what a board game can do. And you can also have fun and learn. Can I just start off with the ones that I really am familiar with?
Of course.
Okay. There's one I want to buy, and that's the Buildzi. It looks like a lot of fun. And is anybody familiar with that game?
I've seen it. I'm in the same boat as you. I wanted to check it out.
Well, you can play different kinds of things with it. It's very versatile. So basically it has a bunch of colored objects, like different shapes, like chevron and a star, and a set of patterns. And so you can play against another person. They would have a set of patterns that have all the colors of those object they want you to build, as you do. And there's a bit of a balancing and a dexterity thing that's there for you. And it's not as easy as it sounds. So you can build that, time it, and hopefully they don't fall down. The other thing is if you want to make it really hard, you can turn the card over, and then the pattern that you have to follow is in black and white. So you're kind of just dealing with shapes only, so there's no clue of what color it is. Then there are these other cards. There's 4 different colors, and you can play it with up to 4 people. You can give each person a set of cards, and when you turn one card over, it tells you what shape to use, and you start building from whatever that card tells you. And again, you can race to see who can do that. That's the 2 basic moves. The other one that I thought would be really interesting, especially for people with dyslexia, is if you play with another person, one person gets the card and sees what they're supposed to create, and then the other person builds it, but that person who has the card doesn't let their partner see it, and they have to tell them what to do. So I can see where this would be a great challenge for expressing yourself. This particular game is good for verbal skills, organization, dexterity. It looks like it would be a lot of fun. I watched a few YouTube videos on it, and they all give it 4 stars.
I've seen those games where husbands and wives have to do a challenge, and the wife has to tell the husband what to do, or vice versa. It sounds just like that, and it always ends in a bit of a pickle. It is for problem solving, creativity, communication, inquiry, engineering and design, critical thinking, and collaboration. It seems to tick many of the boxes, right?
Yeah. The other ones that I had was the Find It. That's the one with the cylinder with all the different colored plastic things, and you find the objects. And when children would go on breaks, they would go and just fiddle with that and try and find things. And there's a penny inside. That's the hardest thing to find. I have never found it yet, and very few people do. But if you do find it, you can go online, and I think they ask you what year the penny is or something like that. And then you get a little certificate that when you find it. So that's kind of cool. And the other game that we used to use in the office, there's 2 versions of it. One for 5 to 8 year olds. It's called Rush Hour. And the object is to get the ice cream truck out of this pattern. And inside the game is a set of cards, and they go from different levels. You have to look at the pattern that the card gives you, set it up, and then the job is to move the whatever vehicle is supposed to be there to make space for the ice cream truck to get out. And that's visual spatial right there. And memory, because you have to remember some of the moves you did that didn't work out. That's a good game, just one-on-one.
It sounds like a 3D version of a video game in a funny sort of way, doesn't it?
Yeah, they still enjoy this hands-on, tactile kind of thing, right?
Absolutely. Do you have any?
Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
set up this one that I just bought, and I tried with a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, and they loved it. So it's a little tower you make, and it's almost like that maybe kerplunk, where you put in the little bars, and on top though is sand. So it's called kinetic sand.
Oh, wow.
And you roll the dice and you pull out these little things, and you pull out the little pegs, and you have a guy on top. And as you pull them out, he sinks down and falls through. And it's just fun. It's nice and hands-on, and they got a setup. It's called Sink and Sand. I find for myself the benefits of board games with our ADHD kids, like just in this game, I could have all the concepts, cause and effects, change, time, sequence, arbitrary order. You have to set it up this way or it doesn't work. And somebody decided on that. And rules, like I find some of our kids are so stuck on rules, but they're also important. So when do we veer from the rules? When are we strict to the rules? Things like that. Turn taking, I think, is huge. Whether it's the little kids where they're just learning turn taking and they will just grab things from you. So I never let kids grab stuff from me and say, oh, that's in my hands. And it's very easy to show them when they're little or when they're older and they're still doing, just to show them, oh, do you like it when I take it? And they don't, nobody does. So, okay. And cheating, it's just you and them. So I find lots of the kids with ADHD, they just want to win so bad. But if you cheat, then I don't want to play with you. And they notice that your goals were to have more friends. So if you cheat, then your friends will not want to play with you. So do you want to win or do you want to play a game together and we both have fun? So those are some of the benefits that I find. But yeah, I find board games, you can get all the concepts in.
No, that's brilliant. I love it.
I like noisy games for children that are active. And one of them is Boggle.
Good one, yeah.
We make real words and non-real words.
And what do you make them with? Oh, I see. There's little sort of dice with letters on them.
Timed as well. With Boggle, the ones that haven't got good reading ability, we can do 2-letter words. But those that have got better reading ability, we can do 4 and 5-letter words. And then we can let them make rules. And when they break the rules, we can remind them that they made the rules and have a lot of fun with it.
That's funny. I like it.
I never thought of that. I would have avoided it actually until you mentioned that. I know you mentioned Monopoly as a classic, but it takes a long time. This one is awesome. Monopoly Deal. You can play it with 2. It's really fun. I would prep yourself ahead of time, or you get to learn it with an older kid. But I find it's great for your teens because you're trading cards and you're kind of trying to scam each other. It's pretty fun. It's just cards, yeah. And I couldn't even tell you how to play it right now. I find if you watch a YouTube video, knowing my dyslexia and rules and instructions, I usually, when I have a new one, I prep ahead and I at least have an understanding, and then we learn it together.
The other thing I use is conversation cards. They introduce a topic and they either know nothing about it or they know something about it. These are more for teenagers or end of primary. So something like if I had to pick a career, they're thinking about who they are, what are their interests, what would they like to become, and why would they want to become that? What's the value in that? And then we have conversations around that. What do I need to change about me?
That's a really nice non-confrontational way of drawing them into a conversation, isn't it? It's like you're not directly asking them something, but the card is asking them in a way.
I like that.
That's cool, yeah.
And I noticed we have Julia with us, and I don't know if you wanted to share any board games.
You had one on there, Sharon, Jenga Maker, sort of like similar to that Buildzi. And
that's the word
I find
was
this
looking
one's
for.
You have your regular Jenga, which is also great. I find it really exciting because our kids are quite jumpy. You can make Jenga pretty exciting and crash and be silly. And they also have to slow down, and where your dial is will really help you in Jenga, because if it's at a 10, you're going to be knocking the tower down. So it's a good one to play with your dial. This one's cool because, again, you get these little cards here and it's got a picture. So they're shaped differently. You'll both get a set of these little blocks. You'll make a kangaroo with these little blocks, just like in the picture. It tells you how many you need of each color, and you just kind of scramble. So you might like this one because it can get kind of loud and fun, and you race to make it. Another cool thing about this is, just like you were saying, Sharon, in the other game, you can also play it where you give the person instructions. I find that really funny, especially with a kid and a parent, because I can't just give you the instruction that I know. If I say chevron and you don't know what a chevron is, I might have to change what I'm saying to suit you, the V-shaped one. You'll have to adjust your wording or they will not know what you mean.
Do you know about Lego therapy?
No. Well, I know about Lego, but I didn't know about Lego therapy.
Lego therapy, I use it to see how the relationship is and how much the child listens to the parents, because there's the warehouse man, the builder, and the boss. The boss goes to the warehouse, gets the materials, and then comes back and instructs the builder to build. I gave the child the one with the most communication, where he had to go to the warehouse, come back, and then tell the builder what to do. Very interestingly, the builder did not follow the instructions. So the child got frustrated and decided to help build. But then when you say, well, you can't help build because you are the boss, you've just got to give the instructions. You then see the personality coming out. You see whether they can take instructions, how many instructions can they give, how many instructions can they take themselves, can they manage their own behavior, and how far can they go before they become frustrated. But then you allow the flexibility for them to say, I'm frustrated now and I want to be something else. And then you let them be that something else, so that they can, as my child did, he went on and said, I don't want to be the boss anymore. I want to be the builder. And then told his dad he's not giving good instructions. But the warehouse person, which I played, was always right. You never got the order wrong because you used the instructions from the small Lego box. Lego therapy, you can buy the training, yes.
Very, very cool. Beautiful. I have a very simple one that I absolutely love with the kids, and it's just Connect 4. We play it for a long time. The thing I love about it is you never, ever have the same sequence, right? I mean, you can start off roughly the same, but you never end up with the same scenario. It's simple to learn. It's easy to do. They have to look ahead. They have to plan, and they have to see the gaps, and they have to try and figure out what you're going to do. But it's just incredibly simple. And we have quite a lot of tournaments with that one. I like the look of Storytime Chess for the little ones. I thought that was very cool.
I think I need to buy it because I don't know how to play chess.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So there's like a storybook. So you learn who the queen is and the basic elements of chess, and you go from the beginning to, there's 3 levels, so that by the end of that you're able to play regular chess. So it's a good way to introduce it to younger children. That one kind of intrigued me. Yeah.
And I read somewhere that playing chess is extremely good for staving off dementia. So we should learn it quickly.
Yeah.
Hurry
up.
I don't know if they're popular around your neighborhoods, but the escape rooms are very popular here. And you can make your own escape room with these cards. And that looks like fun too. But some of the ones that I was looking at, there's escape room cards, but you can only use them once. But then there's the exit cards, which is a similar principle. And there's 2 or 3 different ways I think you can approach the escape. So you could use the game maybe more than once.
Yeah, and the other one I like the look of for the early years, you had a picture charades. So there was no reading involved. They just saw the picture of what they had to act out. And I thought that one looked fun for the little ones.
Yeah, there's so much to choose from. It's almost overwhelming.
It is, but it's nice when you've known someone who's played it.
Yeah.
They can actually say it was fun. And we do quite a bit of Spot It as well, which is a very simple game. There's a few ways to play it, but you have these little round cards and they have pictures on them. And the two of you put down a card at the same time. And you've got to find the picture that's in both cards. And you have to say it quickly first. And then that's your trick. And then you put down 2 more cards. There's other ways of doing it. But the fun thing is they have lots of different varieties. There's like the original Spot It. And then I believe there's a hockey Spot It. Again, very, very simple. As long as the children can identify the objects, you can always talk them through what they are before you start. And sometimes you're looking at the 2 cards and you think, there's definitely not the same one on each one. But you know there's
always.
It's so annoying.
Yeah.
But even the games that involve dice like Yahtzee, and they're enjoyable. They teach you to count. They teach you to look at patterns. They're very educational games. Some of these that are listed, like Know Where to Go and Dixit, those were Julie's suggestions. So I know nothing about those. Cinco, Linko was another one that she suggested. Labyrinth board game, which Miss Laura loves.
And there's different variations of that game. We started with the standard, but then there's Labyrinth Master, there's Labyrinth 3D, and I think we've put in thousands of hours. It's great because you have to move these little cards and create labyrinths, like pathways on the game board. It's so highly visual, and the child has to have the whole game board in their head and map things out. It's a labyrinth. Yeah, and now there's a 3D version, which is even better.
Cool.
So much fun.
Does it take up quite a bit of space? Is it a big? No.
Just a regular board game size, hours. We would play for hours.
That's so cool.
It's actually one of those games. If I was tired after a long day at work and I wanted to play with Lacey, this was the go-to game for me because it was just easy, visual. I didn't have to think too hard. It was really fun.
Brilliant. I like those games too. But now I want to learn how to play chess with this Storytime Chess.
Have you guys ever heard of this math one, Shut the Box? Sharon, you were mentioning dice, and I noticed I've been playing Yahtzee with one of my kiddos, and I noticed I can't think of the word. What is the word for it when you can look at an amount of things and just know what it is without counting? But anyway, I've noticed that increase, and also his understanding of when I have a 6 and a 3, that I start with the 6. I know it's 6, 7, 8, 9. So I find like it's really hard for them to get. And as we've been playing Yahtzee, I was like, well, where are you going to put that number? Because you're going to have to read the side. So it just gave him that reason to want to be able to read, or I was going to beat him. And then this other one is called Shut the Box, and it's so good for math. You get dice again. It goes from 1 to 9, and you roll the dice. And if you get 10, you have to figure which numbers do I need to make 10. So, a 9, you can't really see the numbers there. And a 1, make 10, right? It's really great. You have to kind of problem solve, and then you get to click these little things over and you kind of play against each other.
I love that, because when I'm doing the math program, as far as I'm concerned, as long as the children know what make up 10, everything else falls into place. Shut the Box, is that it? Brilliant. And then there's always Pictionary, which is built for us. Julia?
This one, Ticket to Ride. My kids and I really love to play it together. You have these cards with the different colors of trains, and you put those trains on the board and you try to get from one city to another. Yeah, Laura, when you mentioned Labyrinth, I was like, oh, it's like kind of similar.
Yeah.
They just really love playing it and figuring out how to get from one place to another.
Beautiful, thank you. How old are your children?
7, 9, and 11.
That sounds like it would work for all of them.
And I think there's one for younger kids as well.
This is possibly not really for us, because typically we don't really like words, but there are 2 games that we play with words, and one is Bannagrams, where you sort of create your own crossword puzzle, and the other one is Snatch It. Have you ever played Snatch It? It's wicked. It's just wicked. And I absolutely love it, because you make your word with your tiles and you keep turning over the tiles in the middle. And if somebody else sees that they can make a word from your word, then they can snatch it. You could make a word like bead, B-E-A-D, and then if someone pulls up an R, you're going to make it into bread and you snatch their word. I don't know if it makes friends, but it's really, really good fun. We've got a good list here. What are we going to do with this list? Well, maybe we could have a list on our website of games that are recommended.
I love that. Yeah, let's do it. I'll build a page and put it in our resources. I think it's so helpful. I love
Would
it.
you?
And the thing is, with these games, there's that sense of connection with other people that I really, really like. And everybody is finding connection, and it's good for mental health. We know it's good for learning sequencing and taking your turn and social behavior. Like, there's so many to choose from. I'm so glad that people brought ideas outside of what was listed. I like the conversation one. Some children and some of our clients are not really great conversationalists, they're just, it's great stuff.
Little girl said to me that when she's scared, she feels excited, and when she's excited, she feels scared, and sometimes she doesn't know which one's which. And in the brain, they're both quite close together. So if you think of the fear, the absolute fear we've seen kids when they're trying to read, or when you think about the test coming up, doing this now, I realize, like, when we play games, we have the same pressure. There's a time constraint. So all of those things that are in a test, you're trying to do well, you're trying to do your best, you're competing. So those are in a fun sense. And I think anytime that we can have stress within parameters, then that's really actually good for the brain. Like, oh, I handled that. You're taking the big monster out of it.
That's a really, really good point, to point out to them that they do love that time constraint sometimes. What is sad, I heard last week when we were talking to some early childhood educators, they were saying that because of COVID, the children have really forgotten how to play. They haven't had that connection that you're talking about that's so important. And educators are actually having to teach them how to play. And I can remember a long time ago when my son was little, the children used to go out into the playground at lunchtime, and there was one dinner lady who would always play that game with them. She'd do Ring a Roses, or she'd do something that actually encouraged them to play. Otherwise, they're just sent out in the playground and, now do something, but there's no directive, right?
I've definitely noticed that in the pre-K as well over the past few years. And they often get labeled as behaviors, or other kids just don't want to play with them. There was a little boy that was nonverbal and on the spectrum, but he actually wasn't nonverbal. And he was quite aggressive, which you would have maybe seen from the outside. But with 2 days with him, we both had puppets. Well, he took his puppet and he mashed my puppet. And I realized it wasn't that he wanted to be aggressive. He didn't know how to use a puppet. So he didn't know that the puppet should talk and the puppet should eat and the puppet should play and interact in that way. He just mashed, and he did that with the cars, and he did that with anything. He didn't know how to put the car at the top and go down. And he actually had a lot of words, but nobody was down on his level playing with him. And that's all it took. Again, it's like, we're not playing. And that goes for all ages. And I think it will come out in different ways. And whether it's just not taking my turn and cheating, or that I've always been allowed to win at home. I've never lost a race, and now you're. So I think you have to push that line a little bit, and you have to beat them. And you say, okay, well, what are we going to do? And then you have to lose, and you have to play with that a little bit. When I play with kids that struggle with regulation, I often play this game or other games. It's super simple. It's called Cobra Pair. And often I will jack up my dial and be so stressed out that I can't even beat them. And they're like, Daddy, use your tools. I'm like, whew, I bring them down, and then I beat them so that they get to see what I can do. So this game is very, very simple. You have a bunch of these little tiles. They're kind of like dominoes, but you just roll 2 dice with all the matching symbols to find the tile that matches, and you put one finger on it. And there's all these kind of fun ninja sort of cat rules that you have to be honorable and respectful, and all ages can play. And all of a sudden, reading practice is actually fun because we read 2 lines and then we played around a Cobra Pair.
Wow. We should make our own YouTube channel with all these games.
We should. Even just showing parents how to integrate them, I think, is huge.
Yeah, because that's where I learned how to play the Buildzi. It was through YouTube. They have 4 guys there playing with it, and it was quite entertaining. Can I jump on something that you said, Desi, too, that I think is really important, the idea of losing? Because I think sometimes we are beginning to shelter children so much that they don't get the experience of maybe not doing well and then learning to live with it and move on. Because I think it helps with resiliency. And
I just show them. Like, I had a little boy and I've known him for quite some time, and I know the family. So he was quite upset that I beat him twice, and then he just was kind of mad. I said, okay, if you just want to win all the time, okay. And he's like, oh, this is gonna be great, I'm gonna win all the time. So I got bored and I just, oh, you won again. Oh, you won again. And he's like, well, this isn't fun anymore. I was like, oh, would you like me to try? Yeah, I would like you to try. So then you still got to push that line a little bit where you beat him just enough.
Just love it. We've covered a lot.
I have a couple more short ones if you'd like to see them.
No, go for it.
Okay. This one you'll like, so it's kind of like Spot It. So it's called Ring It. Got a little bell. I always like give them the bell first, just get it out of your system, and everybody gets an amount of cards and you flip it over. And this is kind of cool because it has a number, it has a color, and it has a picture. So you can play with one of those. Let's say you're just little and you're just going to play with colors, or you're going to play with the flowers, and each one has a different one. If the colors match, you ring it. So anything that matches, you ring it. There's variations of how to play. It's short and sweet, and definitely a good family game because everybody can play. Another one that I have is called Quick Cups. I think it's all about sequence. We have all of these 5 cups, red, yellow, blue, green, and black. And you have to lay them out to match the color sequence on the card, but they're not always straightforward.
Oh, okay.
But some of them are in the shape of different objects, and you still have to match up the color.
Oh, I love it.
So it's kind of fun.
That's fantastic. Gosh, we have got a huge list. Now I want to go and play board games.
Yeah.
A very cheap game called Spoon.
Oh, I love Spoons. Spoons is our Christmas game. Spoons is also a wicked game because if you have 6 people around the table, you put 5 spoons in the middle. And you have cards. You're passing cards around the table. You have to get 4 of a kind. The first person who gets it puts it down on the table very gently and grabs a spoon in the middle. And as soon as one spoon is grabbed, everybody has to get to the next spoon.
Okay.
It is noisy. I love that game. I'd forgotten about it. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you. Thank you very, very much to Sharon for the article. Thank you to Laura and to Susan and Desi and Julie for sharing their favorite games. And for those of you who are listening, I think we might attempt to put a page on our website. Laura's looking as if she might be able to do that. And then you can go to the website and see a little inspiration for the games that you might like to buy. And maybe one day we'll even get to the point where we film this. And I can see that would be a lot of fun. But basically, it appears to me that there are so many things that benefit from playing a board game. The communication, knowing how to lose, knowing how to win, all sorts of things. I'm just grateful to all of you for taking part in this. And I'm going to wish you all very, very happy Christmas holidays. I hope it's full of playing board games. And we'll meet again February 1st for our next Come to the Dyslexic Table. And Sharon has an article
on procrastination.
That's why we're missing January. So thank you to all. Take care.
Thank you.